Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. My name is Bradley Ball. We are back and better than ever. It is so good to have you here with us. On Tuesday's show, we had Andrew Nathan, Principal Program Manager Engineer from the Azure Fast Track core team. We talked about Azure Zero Trust, and we also talked about international travel tips. Who played? Who won? Who knows? We know. We were there. But if you don't know, you need to go check out our previous episodes so you can catch up and figure out who's going to be the host this next Tuesday. You don't want to miss a second of those shows. If this is your first time finding our YouTube channel, make sure and give us a like, give us a subscribe. And if you want to interact with the show, it is so easy. There's so many ways. You can go over to Twitter and interact with our Tales from the Field account. Josh Ludeman, Neeraj Jafari, Sequel Balls. You can head over to LinkedIn, interact with the stream under Sequel Balls, or you could come to our YouTube channel. And if you do that, one of my amazing co-hosts is going to see your comment and they will add them. That's right. I'm talking about you guys, my amazing co-hosts, and they will add those comments to the stream. So make sure you get those comments in and join the conversation. And speaking of those amazing co-hosts, I am joined by Andreas Padilla, Josh Ludeman, and finally, Neeraj has come back to the round table. My friend and yours, Neeraj Jafari. Andreas, we dropped an MS Tech Bits yesterday on how to monitor deadlocks in Azure SQL Managed Instance. People are responding. We've got a ton of views over there. I can't wait for next week. You and Neeraj have a video. Your first MS Tech Bits is going to drop, and it's going to be tips and tricks for Azure Data Lake Gen 1 migrations to Azure Data Lake Gen 2. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling great. I love the drop you made for SQL. The deadlocks tickled my fancy. So thank you for that.
Ooh.
Oh, I know.
It's too bad this isn't a points show. I should get points for tickling the fancy.
And looking forward for Neeraj and myself's video to go live and for us to give that out to the community. You want to see that. You want to see how to migrate. You got to get off that platform. It's going to get deprecated. We want you to be successful in that migration. There's more to it under the hood than just migrating the data. You got to worry about Databricks, Data Factory. Watch the video, get informed, get your plan in place. We're here to help. Call me or Neeraj, and we will lead you through the steps that you need. Please reach out to us.
Absolutely. In our first video we ever dropped was We Are Azure Fast Track and how to work with us. Those are engagements we do. Neeraj, you have customers that you work with, helping them to migrate off of Azure Data Lake Gen 1 to Gen 2.
Yeah, a lot of customers I've been working with and talking to probably every day, at least 1 or 2 customers every day trying to figure it out. And it's difficult, right? I mean, you have dependencies to, as Andreas said, Data Lake has dependencies to ADLA, which is also deprecated on 2024. And Databricks, a lot of other pipelines going to be moving around. So it is going to take time. It's not like right away. I mean, there are easy ways that we have come up with, but that's definitely something that you should be looking at.
Yeah. And I mean, look, folks, it doesn't look like it because, you get to see their pretty faces every Tuesday and Thursday. But Andreas and Neeraj are two of just the flat out experts. If I left Microsoft and got hired as a director of IT at some company tomorrow, and I found out we have a bunch of ADLS Gen 1, the first thing I'm doing is I'm going, who's my Microsoft rec? I need a fast track engagement. And I'm hoping I get Andreas or Neeraj to be able to work with us on there. So literally, we have helped customers. Andreas, you helped build this from scratch with the product group.
The program, we built them from scratch. We knew we had to get these people off in a timely manner. We want to make sure that you're tapping into the latest and greatest, which is Gen 2, ADLS Gen 2. It has lifecycle management, private endpoints, security. What else, man? I know. Oh, available in all regions. And it's more cost effective, cheaper. Come on. It's a no-brainer.
No-brainer. That's fantastic.
More money for snacks and stuff.
I love snacks.
We like those dollars, Josh. That's right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, if you're here and you're watching, Oh, I just accidentally muted myself. So quick note, don't accidentally hit your keyboard. That automatically mutes you. Wow.
I'm just happy it wasn't me this time.
Mm.
Usually it's me that just starts talking, and I'm like, so happy it's someone else this time.
There we go. Well, so if you're here for the round table. So let's go ahead and get to some of this amazing content that we have prepared for
Spin
you.
around. Here we go.
I'm going to start with my good friend Neeraj Jafari, who's finally back to the round table. Neeraj, you have international travel tips, 26 things to know before going overseas.
Yeah, so same theme that we continued from Tuesday. I mean, Andrew gave us a lot of tips about how to travel. He's a good traveler and he's been going through it. This particular person goes through all the tips. I mean, particularly passport checking. I mean, remember we talked about documents to be scanned, not digital copies. They don't accept it out. They have to be safe. Like one of the other things that we never talked about, cell phone that Dan brought it up, right? Check with your carrier if it's available. It's take the cell phone services. If not available, find out what are the options, because as soon as you land to other country, you do not have data, you do not have place to call, and then you are stuck with doing nothing. So that's a lot of good things in there. Credit cards, make sure you protect yourself, right? I mean, your valuables, your baggage. Baggage is one of the biggest thing, right? I mean, you might travel with a big bag, and then the other airlines is going to charge you money. That's extra money. If you're traveling with 4 people in your family, that's a lot of money. So that's a good tips they have given up. 26 good tips that you should look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So many great, wonderful tips. And this is from Clark Howard. A long time ago when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, Clark Howard was on the radio at WSB. I have no idea if he's still on or not, but he has a big nationwide audience, and he does a fantastic job of fact checking. As a matter of fact, because I'm going to SQL Bits, this is actually a page that I have bookmarked to come back to and make sure that I've followed all these tips. Because there were a couple things like a mobile passport app that I was unaware of that I went, oh, that's fantastic. Because we talked about having digital copies, but if there is a mobile passport app from the US government that I can actually use, that's huge, just in case something happens to my actual documentation. Great stuff. So speaking of SQL Bits, I'm up next, and I have a very special episode of Data Exposed, Networking, Develop, and Share for SQL Bits 2023. This is an interview that our friend Ree Merritt, who heads up the Azure Data Community. If you'll recall, we had Ree on last year in 2022, and we talked about how to get involved with the Azure Data Community. And she is talking with Simon Sabin, who is one of the founders of SQL Bits and who helps run it. They're talking back and forth about Simon's experience before he was even in the group that ran SQL Bits, the different SQL Bits experiences that they've had, but also how to get the most out of this. Part of this is going to have to do with the community zone. If you're there in person, there will be a community zone that the Azure SQL product group runs and the Azure SQL Data Community runs. Rhea is in charge of that. I will definitely be going there to hang out and talk with people and network and connect. But if you want to know a little more about what SQL Bits is going to be like and what the opportunities are and how you can get the most out of it, this is a great essential video to be able to watch.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So up next, I have the ever effervescent Andreas Padilla. Andreas, how to integrate Azure Databricks with Azure Machine Learning from running big data machine learning jobs.
Oh, great post by Peter Sturkins. Thank you so much, Peter, for putting this in. And yes, it is effervescent. This article is about having your cake and wanting to eat it too. Like I tell many of my, circle of friends, you can't have your cake and eat it too. But in this case, you can't have your cake and eat it too. There are situations where you want to merge Databricks and Azure Machine Learning into one scenario. And why would I want to do that? Because if I want to take advantage of the power of Apache Spark's parallelization and doing things in parallel, I may want to tap into those clusters. And I can call notebooks within Azure Machine Learning Studio with the Python SDK, bring up a cluster, and then distribute all that big data onto multiple nodes. Bam, things are done in parallel, faster, more efficient. Get my training done a lot faster this way. So he explains to you how to configure that, how to set up a machine learning studio, how to set up your Databricks, how to set up your notebook, configure it, put in your libraries, call your workspace, call your pull up your cluster, and then tell Python, hey, go and get this data and train it for me. Really easy to configure and get running out of the box. Thank you for this. A lot of people ask me constantly, hey, I want to be able to do, what should I pick? Machine learning, Databricks, what should I be doing? And I say, well, machine learning does great things. Databricks does things, but guess what? You can have them live together under the same roof.
Andreas,
Great.
what about OpenAI?
Great.
Would they take it over? Then do we need a ML or Databricks or just
You're
write the code for me?
You're still going to need Databricks and machine learning. There's things that you can't automatically train with OpenAI and ChatGPT. You're not, ChatGPT for creating content, doing search, language interpretation, getting code created, beautiful. But if I need to do some linear regression, financial analysis, object detection, ML, Databricks, still going to need it.
Maybe I should see if
I was going to say there's universities that are outlawing ChatGPT because students are using them to get B's on term papers right now. I said, so right now you're saying we can't use ChatGPT for everything, and I think ChatGPT is saying hold my beer.
Oh, it is?
And I was gonna say, Dan Taylor says he likes having his cake and eating it too. Dan, our good friend, it's good to see you there, buddy. I also like cake.
And I love eating it more. I love eating it more than I love cake.
When ChatGPT can deliver cake to me, then we'll talk.
Yeah.
I bet you could ask ChatGPT how to bake a cake from scratch, and it would pull up a recipe for you.
Probably, but the main thing I'm interested in is, can ChatGPT tell me the winning Powerball numbers before they actually happen? So far, no. So far, no. Yeah. Dan says, OpenAI, ChatGPT, this new Skynet. I hope not. I think we just need to make sure that those nuclear codes stay under lock and key with good old human beings. We should never put them in charge of computers. And that's good. We don't automate the system.
GPT, does that make ChatGPT Arnold Schwarzenegger's mother?
Probably.
You like how I totally did the time travel bit and went around in a circle on that?
You know what? I don't want to say anything about Arnold Schwarzenegger's mother, because even though he's in his 70s, he could still kick my. So, Josh, you've got introducing managed Airflow and Azure Data Factory.
So this is straight off the presses. As you see, it was published just yesterday. It was announced yesterday from the Data Factory team. Is they now have an integration with Apache Airflow. If you're not familiar with Apache Airflow, maybe you are really familiar with SQL Server. Think of this a lot like the SQL agent. Apache Airflow allows you to create and schedule jobs and interactive workflows for predominantly around the data, data execution, data transformation, data pipelines. So really what this opens up is, and there's customers that, that I've talked to, and I think some of the rest of us have talked to as well, that are really, they've already been functioning maybe on another cloud, maybe on-prem, in a very open source focused environment. So with this integration with Airflow, it allows customers to be able to bring existing workflows and pipelines from that more open sourced environment and reuse their Airflows here on Data Factory. So I know the gentleman here, y'all have had enough conversations with me to know that I really like the open source thing, and I'm really an advocate of, Azure really embracing more of the open source, especially data technologies. So for me, this was like, oh, this is awesome. Game changer, something I was really excited to see.
Yeah, this is absolutely fantastic. I had a customer I was actually working with about a year ago, and they were using Airflow and they didn't want to convert to ADF. And so they actually stood up Airflow in Azure for them to be able to continue to utilize. So the fact that we now have this integration, this is a really big deal for customers that would rather use those OSS products.
Yep, absolutely. So it definitely opens up, I think, for some of our existing customers, to your point, that have moved over, but even ones who have thought about it, but looked at, and again, I'm going to throw back a week and topic, look at all that technical debt that would be incurred by, coming to Azure, but having all that Apache Airflow already, those Airflows already out there. The Airflow integration with Data Factory takes a lot of that technical debt and takes it out of the equation.
Wonderful, wonderful callback for Josh. Oh, Dan, if only this were a point show, but Josh, sorry. No, it doesn't transfer.
I still think it transfers to next week, and I should get another 1,000 for the callback.
I'm sorry. Are you the host? I'm not the host.
I'm the. Oh.
Well,
I mean,
we'll let
the
Neeraj
host
decide. You stay over there, Balls. You stay over there. We'll let Neeraj take this one. Neeraj,
I'm
sending you a box of chocolate.
Pump the brakes.
I trust Neeraj. Speaking of Neeraj, he is up next. He's got 12 tips to prepare for an international trip.
So, Brad, this is for you. When you go into SQL base, something that you could definitely use this up. Definitely choose an aisle seed. The second point that she has, pack likely, definitely choose aisle seed. Definitely, if you want to move around the thing, app for everything. I know you're going to Wales, but there is app for every single thing, right? I mean, you definitely want to have your apps downloaded before you go up there. Dress accordingly, definitely. Arrive early. I mean, I was checking it out. And when Andrew said, like in Australia, you can walk right in there, I was checking with one of my friends. He said, yes. He came to US and he was stunned, like he almost was ready to miss a flight just because he had to stay for 2 hours in a line just to get to a flight. So he was really crazy. Launch definitely every. I mean, particularly I like the Middle East ones. They are really great launches, but I'm sure London also has a good one. Drink water, keep yourself hydrated. Definitely that you want to definitely do it. I like this one, silence of cone of silence, because you definitely want that on the plane, right? And that's where your jet lag and everything would be resolved if you can just get silence in there. And show the love. The last one that you can definitely use is give something to the air hostess or the flight attendant, and then you get it back free. Maybe upgrade you to a first class or a business class.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. I really like this because random acts of kindness, I believe, are a really, really good thing where we should definitely show the love. Hey there, little guy. How you doing? Good to see you. Great to see you, buddy. There we go. Well, Andreas officially has the cutest person on screen. It's not any of us.
Today.
Yeah.
Today. I wouldn't sell yourself so short, Bradley.
Oh, thanks, man. I was doing push-ups before this just for you.
The force flows well with you. So,
these headphones were something that I bought as a gift for myself before I went to SQL Bits last year. And they're the Apple AirPod Max. Best noise canceling, most comfortable headphones I've ever had before in my life. My ears get really hot. These are super vented. They allow you to be able to, they breathe really, really well. And then on top of that, the noise canceling is top notch. I didn't hit the button for this and it amplifies it. And so that way you can kind of hear everybody who's talking. And so I don't have to take these off if I'm in an exit row to be able to hear the instructions, and it amplifies the noise on the plane so I can hear it when it's not noise canceling. The second it's noise canceling, dead silence. Oh, beautiful, beautiful stuff. But yeah, no, those are great tips, Neeraj. I appreciate those, man. Keep it going. Next up, I've got TempDB performance improvements in SQL Server 2022 are dramatic. And this is by Monica Rathbaum. We've had Monica on before. Monica is just a fantastic blogger, a great MVP, SQL Espresso, as her blog is known, but also as her Twitter handle is known. And one of the things she talks about is looking at the latch contention before and after upgrading, which is, as you can see, it's dropped to practically nothing. Not only that, one of the great things about this, and I don't know that she has this specifically, but Bob Ward told us about this when he was on, and he said this was his favorite fact about 2022, is that the TempDB log file is able to do instant file initialization for the log file for TempDB only. This isn't all the other databases, but that is massive. So if you have TempDB grow on you, instant file initialization for that log file means you don't have any write log waits occurring while you're bloating TempDB with all the stuff you're putting in there. So there's so many great things about SQL 2022. The latch contention is a huge part of that. Really, really great stuff. Let's see. I'm going to come back to Andreas in just a second, but I'm going to go over to Josh and I'm going to hit him up. And we've got Catherine Wilhelms, her series on a beginner's guide to Azure Data Factory.
Yeah, so I realized one of the things that I realized when we were putting together the links for today's show, I was looking at it and we hadn't featured her yet. So when I started with the first link about our Airflow integration being added to Data Factory, and I realized she wasn't in there, I'm like, well, we have to have this series because this series is a great series to bring you from, you've heard this term used before in training sessions and stuff like that, and training materials, zero to hero. This truly is a zero to hero of Data Factory, getting started with it, overview of the interface, walking through the components, looping, variables, all that. So it's a great list of blogs. I can't even remember how many are there, like 20 some.
26.
26 that are in there. That walks you through every little piece of the product. So I recommend this for anyone that is thinking, oh, great, now I've got to get started in Data Factory. Here you go. This will get you there.
Oh, thanks, Josh. This is really helpful because I have a customer who's asking for it, and this I can just follow it out. I mean, I don't have to do a research also.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've seen actually Catherine has spoken before to SQL Saturday that Brad and I were at a few years ago. She actually did a pre-con based off a lot of this content. So it's great content to see, but it's also thorough as you can want in content like this.
Absolutely. And you know what? She is a fantastic blogger. She does such a great job. It's so detailed. I've used her blogs before. I think the one that I've visited the most often was when I was deploying SQL Server on Linux containers in my local environment to be able to set up demo environments, because she had just a fantastic blog on that in 2019. And I think I had gone through the steps in 2017. Her blog came up when I searched for it, and Catherine always does a great job in making sure. She's a fantastic presenter. I would bet you that she's on the schedule for SQL Bits because she's normally a volunteer and she's also working over there. Just an absolutely fantastic MVP, an example for the community. I'm going to hop back to Andreas real quick. Andreas, we've got Unleashing the Power of AI with Azure OpenAI, a simple guide to get started by our good friend and colleague on the Fast Track team, Mir Alam.
Mir, we'll get to you in a second. Back to Josh's post. Yes, Catherine Williamson. Her best post, in my opinion, is Azure Data Factory price and cost. It is, she breaks it down so easy. You get your bill and you're like, what the heck what did I spend? Where's the money going? She breaks it down for you. Watch that post. The best one, in my opinion. Back to Mir and his great post. He does an introductory post on the power of OpenAI. And when anybody says power, I think of Tim the Toolman and Taylor. Oh, give me more power.
Yeah, there you go.
But what's great about this is that he breaks down the different models you get behind the scenes, which one's faster, which one has more precision, the areas where you'll apply this to summarize text, classified text, natural language to SQL, language to code, English to French, parsing unstructured data, classification. So the list goes on and on. He shows you what you need to consider, what's going on behind the API, what are the models, and then how to set up your first call to the model. And your first prompt where you talk to the the magic man behind ChatGPT, and he gives you back a completion or a prompt, a result, and how that whole life cycle works. So Mir, thank you for kickstarting everybody in the world as easy as possible to get into the ChatGPT and OpenAI on Azure's platform. Beautifully done.
You know what? Maybe we ought to have a model. We should start having, we should keep the conversation going whenever the chat is, or the video goes live. The chat that we get during the video doesn't post. However, we do have that chat on YouTube and all of us have access to it. We should have people rate your hats, and then we could make an ML model to do a hat selector. Maybe if we throw in some ancillary data to be able to correlate it, like shirt you're wearing, time of the year, we could potentially find that we could eventually get enough data that we could do an AI predictor of what hat should Josh wear.
I mean, it wouldn't be the craziest idea I've ever seen. I stumbled across on Twitch last night. It runs on loop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's an AI generated show based off of the idea of Seinfeld. So it's a show about nothing, and it's all graphically generated, including the graphics, what the characters do, and the dialogue is all AI generated, and it just runs endlessly. So yeah, I think if somebody can do that and it's published and actually streaming online, we can do something as ridiculous as either Chat GPT picking my hats. I mean, I feel like that's a crazy thing. I do like, however, the idea of the survey though, going out to the viewers, picking the hat.
Well, and I got to tell you, we were at my birthday party last weekend. Josh tried on this hat, and I got to tell, I told him, I said I thought this was great. I was like, dude, we gotta go back and buy that hat. That's a hat that needs to make it
so to be fair and to explain the look on my face, Brad turned around with a camera, and I'm like, oh great, another camera.
He looks like he's like very nice, obedient guy.
Well, and I believe that the expression is 3 sheets to the wind.
No, not at that point. Sheet and a half. I'll meet you in the middle.
Sheet and a half. Okay. All right.
To be fair, when I'm 3 sheets to the wind, I'm usually sleeping. So I'll meet you in the middle of the sheet and a half. I'm pretty sure I was only a sheet in, but I'll compromise with you.
Okay. So next up, I have Neeraj Jafari. Neeraj, you have international travel to and from the United States from the CDC, taking a big swing as a community thing, but they definitely are a part of the community, right?
I mean, the reason I brought this up is people are going to start traveling back. COVID is still out there. These guys have been constantly updating out, right? Places before you visit out, what needs to be done. Every country has a different rule. It's really hard. I mean, if you look at the internet, everybody says differently. Even airlines have different rules nowadays. So something that you need to really follow up on this, right? It really makes you follow what, if you're visiting a country, what rules needs to be followed up, and they keep constantly updating it out. I mean, they give different labels also, saying it's level 1, 2, 3 to go to that place. And they're, I mean, I was just checking out one of the countries that I wanted to go. They said not to travel at all. It's too risky to go up there. So that gives you, before buying a ticket, you should definitely look at it, this thing.
Well, and I remember that one of the most nerve-wracking moments when I was in England last year. Now, fortunately, this restriction has been lifted since then. But you had to have a negative test in order to be able to even get through the ticketing portion of the airline to be able to come back home. And you sit there, you're careful all week, you hope everything's okay, but that's a nerve-wracking time when you go, I've got a flight in a couple of days, and if I'm positive, I suddenly find myself stranded here, figuring out how long do I wait until, how long is it going to be? So yeah, no, you want to make sure that you understand the regulations. Dan says Josh is super popular, so super popular that he always has people taking pictures of him. That's true.
It is. I saw that comment as well and was waiting for an opportunity to go. Dan knows. Dan's been
Get Brad's autograph. Get it.
Get Brad's autograph.
It's not worth anything.
I'm gonna get it.
You get it on a napkin, so then you can wipe your face with it and throw it out.
When I see you in Jacksonville, I'm gonna get it. We're gonna write something nice. Yeah.
Oh,
and then you need to use it as like a curtain backdrop for the show. Brad's autograph across behind you.
It's illegible, so it could be just about anybody's. You could be like, that's Tom Brady. There's a B in my name, so it could work out. Who knows? All right. So I'm up next, and I'm going to go with my buddy Patrick LeBlanc over at Guy in a Cube. He has a great video on ready to be a Custo detective with Azure Data Explorer. I absolutely love Azure Data Explorer. They have the Custo Detective Agency. We covered this in a previous roundtable, and it's so unbelievably cool. It gives you tips and hints. It makes it really fun to be able to learn KQL. You get your own cluster for free. And what I love is Patrick, of course, he doesn't just love talking about it. He loves doing the demos. So he's in here showing you how to engage in the agency, how to be able to do the syntax, how to be able to go through some of this. And the detective agency is going to forgive him for any spoilers in here, because he helps you understand this is the process you're going to go through. And if you go through that detective agency, you will become very proficient in Azure Data Explorer. And it is one of the most powerful tools out there. As a matter of fact, Patrick and I are doing a wonderful presentation at SQL Bits. We'll talk about that in a little while. But I wanted to make sure and plug this because it was a great video. If you haven't played around with Azure Data Explorer, you absolutely should. It's good stuff.
I don't know that I've ever heard of Azure Data Explorer.
Yeah, what is that?
I see I have my work cut out for me. It's all right. There will be a future video. Don't worry about that. So I knock over my microphone mindlessly. Let me now, in the middle of my mistake, hit someone who is much more graceful than me. Andreas, you have MLflow 2.0, Azure Machine Learning.
Thank you, Facundo Santiago, for posting about this. MLflow, necessary SDK in Azure Machine Learning and in Databricks. Why? Because it will let you track your experiments, track your jobs, share and your models, put them in a repository, package them up, look for the best run, your best experiment run, give you a lot of details on why it was the best experiment of, if you ran it through different algorithms, it will help you fine tune and find that best experiment and register that model. So MLflow, you'll use it if you're using heavy duty training in machine learning or in Databricks, you will use MLflow to get the details you need to monitor your experiments and your jobs. He steps into it, shows you how easy it is to integrate into your Python, into your, bring in the SDK, work with the MLflow SDK, and then track, deploy your models, and then voila, you're zero to hero.
Dan's bringing the jokes. I love it. He's not wrong. MLflow 2 sounds like a Beastie Boys song. It does. I want to hear the intergalactic robot doing that. I think that voice would go well with it. All right, absolutely. Last but absolutely not least, we have Mr. Josh Ludeman as our final person with When to Have Multiple Data Lakes by James Sierra.
Yeah, so James's blog is actually a great one. He put it out just last month, but I think it's a conversation that each of us have had with customers about when, well, I've got all this data. Do I need a separate lake? And, when do you make that determination of going from a single lake for your organization to multiple? He actually speaks to one of the situations that I ran into with a customer at one point, right there in the center. If you have confidential or sensitive data and you want to keep it, separate from less sensitive data. So for instance, the customer I was working with had, PII and marketing-esque data, and they wanted to separate the marketing and sales data from the PII so that they didn't, that was their thought around doing it. And they go, but we don't know if we're being crazy. Are we going overboard and being a little too, insane by separating the two? And at that point, and this was a couple of years ago that I talked to that customer, and I said, no, I think you're absolutely right. Separating PII, maybe having that behind, more aggressive security practices and guidelines versus the rest of your lake where it's okay. It's a less aggressive security posture in that case. But he goes through different ones. Obviously, dev, test, and prod need to be separate lakes. You don't want to muddy the water in that respect. So it's a great article, goes through all that. James is a great resource in the community. for, especially around architecture itself. He has some great posts that dive deeper into technology, but from an architecture perspective, great resource.
I'd like
Great
to give
stuff.
kudos to Josh today. Not that all the other posts aren't necessary and valid, but the ADF and this one, dude, you brought some hot fire today.
Thank you, my friend.
Bring
I
us some A
appreciate
game.
it.
Yeah.
Nice stuff, Josh. Absolutely. Okay, I guess we're down to our reminders. Quick reminder, we'll start with the Christmas show. Again,
Just
the
do my
Elster
best,
show
man,
is
I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a
in February now. It's going to be Tuesday, February the 21st. That is going to be our Elster show with our good buddy Dan Taylor, with Lonnie Bauer, with Andrew Nathan, and then the four of us. This is going to be like the biggest show that we've ever had from a guest perspective. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Neeraj and Andreas next Wednesday. Remember, their ADLS Gen 1 to Gen 2 content will drop. They also have an FTA live for ADLS Gen 1 to Gen 2. So don't forget to take a look at that. Also, we have dropped the MS Tech bits of how to monitor deadlocks in Azure SQL Managed Instance. So if that's something that you need to understand, there's two different ways to do it. I'm not going to tell you here. It's on the video. Go check it out.
That video. That sounds like such an intelligent video.
Oh, thank you. It's not bad. They could have found a better looking guy to deliver the message, but it's okay. It lands. It's supposed to be
okay. Andrew Nathan was busy. He wasn't available.
He was. We tried to get him. But go check out that video that we've got over on our MS Tech Bits. Tuesday is our hosting show. And boy, do we have a great lineup. I mean, the guests that we've got over the next 2 weeks are just going to be amazing. I don't mind telling you, I'll give you a little hint, but we have someone from Xbox next week, and I can't wait to have her here. It's going to be an amazing show. Don't forget, we've got SQL Bits coming up. It is a hybrid event. I've got 2 sessions there, soft skills, eat tech skills for breakfast. You're not going to want to miss that. Also, I've got that session with Patrick LeBlanc, Guy in a Cube. We are going to be talking about the greatest Azure service that you've never heard of. And then Neeraj, myself, and our good buddy Dan Taylor, we have a pre-con at SQL Saturday Jacksonville in May. People have started signing up. Now is your chance. You definitely want to go and sign up for that. And it's going to be a great day. It's a day of fundamental DBA topics, and we're going to have a great time with this show. Is there anything I'm forgetting, gentlemen?
No, I think you hit it all, man. You hit all the high points, and I even have the music running. I think the wrap-up was all in all a success.
There we go. It's all good. Well, hey, everybody have a great weekend. Can't wait to see you next week. Take care of one another.
yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't